Well, that's of course not just an AI problem, but we're just seeing, I think, the tip of the iceberg here. There is much more to be done. I think really the publishing community and the academic community is just getting started to address this problem. Of course, you mentioned the regulations, the European regulations, and increasingly in the US, this is a topic. Accessibility needs to be guaranteed.
Welcome to another episode of Insight Exchange, where we delve into the dynamic intersection of technology, academia, and publishing. I'm your host, Nikesh Gosalia, and today we have an exceptional guest who stands at the crossroads of traditional medical publishing and cutting-edge technology. Joining us is Mitja-Alexander Linss, the Chief Marketing Officer at Cactus Publishers, with over 2 decades of experience in technology marketing and a keen understanding of the intricate relationship between artificial intelligence and knowledge management in academia. Mitja brings a wealth of insight to our discussion, having navigated the realms of both technology and science throughout his impressive career. In this episode, we'll explore the ways in which AI is reshaping knowledge management within the academic sector, the challenges and opportunities it presents, and the collaborative efforts required between academic institutions and publishing partners to integrate AI seamlessly into knowledge management processes. So buckle up for an insightful conversation with Mitja, where we unravel the future of AI in academia and its profound implications for knowledge dissemination and scientific progress. Welcome to Insights Exchange, Mitja.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about your interest and background in AI and knowledge management, especially as it pertains to academia?
Certainly, Nikesh. I have a 20-year track record in information services and marketing with touch points on copyright licensing, software as a service, and lately publishing. I've had the pleasure of leading marketing operations, global marketing operations for Research Solutions, better known as Reprints Desk, and have worked for SaaS startup companies, including a Canadian startup company focused on AI search and discovery and insurance, and I'm just generally really interested in knowledge management, entrepreneurial innovation, and AI. Lately, I've joined Cactus Publishers as head of marketing.
Brilliant. That's very impressive, Mitja. And before we move on to the conversation about AI and going deeper into it, just to touch upon a little bit around the marketing experience that you have gained over the years. In your opinion, do you think the marketing landscape has changed? And if so, how do you think it has changed?
Oh, it is constantly changing and evolving. I've been doing this for 20 years. And interestingly enough, some of the things that have been important back then are still important. I'll give you an example. Everybody predicted the death of the trade show 15 years ago. Guess what? We still have trade shows because people like to shake hands and like to meet, and that's not going to change. Despite the evidence of remote working and virtual events, there are still going to be events, but a lot of other things are changing. Targeting, segmentations, marketing technology is evolving fast. The things that are possible today, just possible in the last 5 years that haven't been possible 5 years ago, are breathtaking. And especially, of course, AI plays a big part of that. Generative AI has changed the game also in marketing. There's no question about it. There's lots of changes here. AI can support marketing efforts, can inform marketing efforts, but it's not going to replace a marketing as such. It's becoming more about being better able to generate content, to make informed decisions about content affinities of the audience, and that's where AI becomes extremely, extremely helpful. So the future marketer has to know how to master AI to generate content that is really, really liked and valued by the audience. And it's not about automating content generation. It's about making more informed decisions which content will ultimately be preferred by your audience.
Wow, I love that, Mitja. I think that was so well put. On one side, it's constantly evolving, like you said. But on the other side, there are certain things that, have not changed and will probably not change. And we all have witnessed, I think we were there at the London Book Fair or any other event, and in person is back and back with a big bang. Everybody wants to meet. And there are things like Zoom fatigue. So there are certain things which will not change. So thank you so much for sharing that. Talking a little bit about AI, as it's been a hot topic for the last, I guess, year and a half especially, how do you see AI transforming knowledge management within the academic sector? And what specific applications or benefits does it offer to academic institutions?
Well, there's a lot to cover here, obviously, but I see few areas where we have development specifically for publishing and for the academic institutions. There's, of course, enhanced search and discovery, whether through traditional library platforms or through conversational AI. There is the area of content summarization and extraction, so extraction of information from full text scientific articles. And then there's the whole area of ethics compliance and plagiarism detection. So automatically detect plagiarism and fraud in academic submissions, ensuring the integrity of research and academic work. That's a big area of focus, of course, for AI in the academic sector. And then just generally, generative AI, how does academic content is generated? How are research summaries and abstracts generated? How can generative AI support the editorial process? And last but not least, data and analysis and visualization is a big area, of course. How to process and analyze vast amounts of research data, helping researchers identify trends and correlations and patterns. Other areas are general research support. How can we make research faster, more productive? How can we support researchers to be faster? How can the peer review be faster and more effective?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mitya. I think we see similar trends with plagiarism and fraudulent practices growing at almost every other day. There is some or the other article about more of these issues emerging. I think there is clearly a use case for some of the processes to be automated, but maybe the future is a bit hybrid, where you still need that human layer to check and ensure that new practices are not being followed. And then I think we also see a similar trend on the whole research communication space, where I think a lot of the plain language summaries could be automated to some extent by the use of AI, but also, visual abstracts. So I think that was absolutely spot on. From your perspective, how should academic institutions measure the success of their AI-driven knowledge management initiatives? And are there any specific key performance indicators that they should focus to demonstrate the impact on education and research?
Yes, of course. There are a number of them. First and foremost, the research impact needs to be measured and influenced by AI. And those are really traditional KPIs like the impact factor, citation counts, but also publication rates and the number of accepted papers. In a nutshell, how effective is AI to accelerate the process and increase the submission rate and make them more impactful? And that's of course at the core of measuring success in the academic sector or in publishing with AI. Then it is, of course, a question of library usage. So how can librarians increase demand for their library resources? And how can they measure that? And what are the user stats for library materials? Are they increasing with AI programs? That's another focus. Generally, I think it's all about time savings. It's all about efficiency and cost savings and research time savings. So how much time can be saved in literature reviews, in the analysis? That is, of course, another area where it's easy to measure success and where academic institutions and other stakeholders in the publishing field needs to focus when they want to measure success of AI initiatives. Ethics and compliance, we've already talked about it, a big area. How many fraud and plagiarism cases can be detected with AI? And what's the reduction of instances of misconduct that can be achieved through the use of AI? Other KPIs that are important. Accessibility and inclusivity, that's an area that we haven't talked about, but what's the number of students with disabilities accessing research resources? And can that be increased through AI? And can other compliance with industry standards achieved through AI? All these are measures and KPIs academic institutions and other stakeholders can take. Generally, it's really important in my experience to really manage user adoption, to ask your internal and sometimes external constituents through regular surveys and feedback on how AI initiatives are going. So I think that's an important component of any type of feedback loop and measurement when it comes to AI initiatives.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mitya. I know you covered a very important aspect and something that maybe if you have any additional thoughts, it'll be good for the listeners to hear about, which is the accessibility. And we all know that there are very stringent rules and policies, regulations in Europe, of course, but many other countries as well. In your opinion, are all the stakeholders in the field of research doing enough, or is there more that can be done? Again, through a combination of, is it just technology as the solution, or other things that the stakeholders need to do?
Well, that's of course not just an AI problem, but we're just seeing I think the tip of the iceberg here. There is much more to be done. I think really the publishing community and the academic community is just getting started to address this problem. Of course, you mentioned the regulations, the European regulations, and increasingly in the US, this is a topic. Accessibility needs to be guaranteed. And I think, again, we're just seeing the beginning phase of those initiatives. I think there are lots of discussions in the industry, but I think we have yet to see sort of a comprehensive rollout of solutions. So I think we are on a good way. I think it's also important that the problem is recognized and discussed and talked about, but I think there is room for improvement across the board on the publishing side with lots of publishers who are facing this problem. We're taking it really serious, but it takes time to roll this out. I can say that from a Cargill perspective, we are really taking this problem very seriously and looking into it, looking at solutions, but they're not rolled out very quickly. So there's not much clarity around what it means and how we can address the problem of accessibility with effective solutions. Some of them are known, others are not, but in any case, it takes time to address the problem.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you, and I acknowledge especially the fact about more clarity that is required, and the other is the speed, Mitya. And I also acknowledge, and I know for a fact that Cargill has been a leader in adopting technology and making processes as efficient as possible, trying out many new things. But I think we need the support of the whole industry to move forward at the pace that it requires. So thank you for that response. Moving from some of the success metrics and talking a little bit about the accessibility, maybe we can talk a little bit about the nitty-gritties, which is the challenges and opportunities in implementing AI for knowledge management in academia. So in your opinion, what unique challenges and opportunities do academic institutions face when implementing AI for knowledge management, and how essentially can these challenges be addressed?
Well, I've already talked a little bit about the opportunities, the fields where we have all the areas where we have opportunities, starting from optimizing search and discovery to ethics and compliance, through general research support. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that more in the call. So I'm just going to focus a little bit on the challenges, perhaps. There are quite a few challenges to be resolved. One of the most prominent ones I can see is, of course, licensing of scientific data, because all the large language models using scientific data for training purposes, they're doing so by not having really clarified copyright permissions before. And there's a lot of open questions now on how large language models can actually use the scientific corpus as a basis for training data and meet copyright requirements. And so that's a really open question. And I think the operators of large language models like OpenAI and others have just started to engage in that conversation with publishers on how to resolve that. But I think that's a question that needs to be resolved because there are legitimate concerns around copyright and copyright permissions that need to be given in the process. That's a really new field, so that's a big challenge. Another challenge is bias in training data. AI algorithms can inherit biases from training data, potentially disadvantaging certain groups. And that's not just a problem in publishing, of course. It's across the board when AI is being used. It's nothing new, but it's a challenge that academic institutions and other stakeholders in the publishing industry have to face and have to find solutions for, which are regular auditing AI models for biased, diversified training data and implement ethical guidelines. They have to ensure that that's the case. A third challenge that we probably see is AI detection. So there is actually a lot of AI used to detect AI. And that is, increasingly important. How can AI-generated scientific content be identified when used with fraudulent intent? Intent, for instance. Academic institutions need to enforce strict guidance around generative AI in research. I think that's something that is a big challenge, right? Because if there is an increased opportunity to use AI for making peer review processes more effective, there's also an equally increased opportunity for fraud and plagiarism supported by AI in publishing. So that's an important challenge that needs to be tackled. And just generally, maybe privacy and security, sensitivity of data of students and research data that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. And these are the real challenges, Mitya. I know you spoke about the fact that we will get an opportunity to talk a little bit about the kind of the positive side or the opportunities that might come up, not to kind of push you in a corner, but based on your experience and based on your expertise, looking ahead, what trends and technologies do you foresee shaping the future of AI in knowledge management for academia and publishing?
Well, I think there are two areas to focus on. I think one has to do with the new evolution of data models that we're seeing. So data models are evolving. There are some trends that will impact AI performance massively for academia and publishing. The massive data models will continue to scale, perhaps 1,000 times larger than ChatGPT is today. But the more important development we're seeing is that small data models will evolve as they are cheaper and cover 99% of today's AI needs. So niche data models will become more important. Furthermore, multimodal models will emerge, bringing together text, figures, and images, doing much more than just generative AI on the text or image side separately. Bringing them together will really enhance the overall AI experience. And as will integration with other tools, internet databases, other LLMs, and specialty software. I think specifically for academia and publishing, it's all about streamlining and enhancing peer review. And I think there's a few areas here. Of course, editing and writing, academic editing and writing is an important focus area for a lot of AI tools to improve the editorial process. There are manuscript screening tools. And then we have the interesting question of, could peer review entirely be done by an AI? A very interesting question that is also being looked at right now by several startup companies. Conversational search, generative and investigative AI, focusing on search and extraction are also becoming more important. AI-generated content like lay and expert summaries, highlights are also something that we'll see more of. Content recommendation engines and just in general, time savings in the editorial process. How can we be faster in the editorial process? How can we decrease the number of manual checks in the peer review process while at the same time keeping up the quality of the peer review process. That is going to be a big focus here on the opportunity side.
Wow, all of that sounds really exciting and probably a little bit scary as well, Mitya. But like you said, the final bits that you mentioned is really important. That, how do we balance all of this, where we use technology, maybe go back, reassess what kind of role it is playing, and then modify it again with the viewpoint of automating a lot of the manual tasks. And I think all of this will be really important considering the volume of research papers that we are seeing, and the output just keeps growing. I think these are some very, very important areas that we have to keep an eye on. Moving on a little bit, as AI becomes more prominent pretty much in the near future, how can academic leaders strike the right balance between the expertise of human faculty and staff and the AI-driven knowledge management solutions?
Yeah, I think there's almost a checklist here of recommendations to give. And I think what leaders are supposed to be doing is that there's multiple focus areas. I think starting, it is important to recognize that to see AI as a support, not a replacement of human activity. That's really key to understand. Emphasize that AI is designed to support and assist humans, not replace them. So it's all about promoting a culture of collaboration between humans and AI systems, and encourage the education of staff to view AI as a valuable tool that they can enhance their capabilities and productivity with. That leads to the next point. I think there has to be a definition of clear role and responsibilities, making it evident how AI can assist, augment, or automate certain tasks while human experts maintain decision-making and creative roles. So set clear boundaries and define those. Some of the larger publishers are already starting to do that, and other companies. Ethical considerations and oversight. So establish clear ethical guidelines for the use of AI in academic settings, and ensure that decisions involving AI are aligned with ethical standards and provide oversight to prevent bias and discrimination. I think that's another check on the checklist, sort of say, to look at for academic leaders and faculty. Just in general, and publishers, by the way, as well, or other stakeholders in the publishing industry. Just in general, I think it's important to provide training and skill development. So, provide training resources for faculty and staff to build AI literacy and proficiency, including the understanding of capabilities and limitations of AI tools and how to effectively work with AI-driven tools. So the training aspect to consistently really ramp up your own workforce and staff is considerable, and has to be a constant part of any AI initiative. And finally, transparency and explainability. So ensure that AI-driven decisions and recommendations are transparent and can always be explained. This allows humans to understand and trust the AI's reasoning, making collaboration more effective. So I think those are guidelines to be followed.
I really like that, Mitja, especially because you referred to that as more like a checklist or guidelines that we should follow. And I fully agree with you that there is clearly a potential for AI to play a certain role. Human intervention is going to be extremely important, going forward. Talking a little bit more about AI, how is AI currently being utilized to enhance the scientific research processes within academia? And more important, are there any promising examples of its impact that come to mind?
There are a lot of promising examples, so I'm not sure I can mention them all here. But in general, this is probably a good opportunity to mention that Carter Publishers is actively offering entrepreneurs and startup companies the opportunity to present their innovations. Carter Publishers is offering the Vesalius Innovation Award that is actually named after Andreas Vesalius, medieval pioneer of anatomy. And we do this now for several years, I think for 5 years. And we're just wrapping up for the 2024 season, and we've awarded it a lot of startup companies and entrepreneurs in scientific publishing, healthcare, and AI with the opportunity to present their innovations, So maybe I could just give a few examples of some of these startup companies that have been awarded, but also that are out there and have not been. So some of them have actually gone through the process of the Vesalius Innovation Awards, others have not. So I think there's just some general areas, and I'll give some few examples in some of these areas. Search and discovery, I've already mentioned that. That's a big focus area, of course. Now we have, of course, the approach to integrate AI-based discovery into the subscription process. Something like Scopus AI is doing exactly that, for instance. That's something that Elsevier is offering. Site AI, a company that was recently purchased or acquired by Research Solutions, provides conversational search and extraction of content from full-text scientific papers based on a conversational search engine. So that's something that is really interesting and is a little bit of a different approach than maybe the subscription-based discovery. And of course, we have another example, Resolute AI, also acquired by Research Solutions, searches multiple databases at the same time. So these are just some few examples on the search and discovery side. Of course, there is scientific writing. There are well-known tools like Scholarly, Writeful, and I think Cactus Communications has PaperPal, for instance. These are all we don't want to forget to mention that here. They are all, traditional academic writing tools that work with AI. Curie AI offers academic writing and editing, and I think it's offered by Springer Nature. So that's another example. The peer review process in general, what tools do we see here? We have a tool called Penelope AI, and that is focusing on screening manuscript submissions. SciScore, they provide a score for research validation and have been a 2022 runner-up in the Vesalius Innovation Awards. Global Campus is another example. They have been a 2023 finalist in the Vesalius Innovation Awards, and they're doing peer reviewer recommendations to find peer reviewers. Just a few examples from the peer review process. Research integrity, of course, is a big topic. Image Twin was a 2023 Vesalius Innovation Award winner, and they are focusing on detecting research integrity issues with images and figures in scientific research. Clear Skies, another startup company that focuses on paper mill detection at scale. So those are all examples for startup companies out there and that are using AI to solve actual issues or real world issues in the publishing industry and in academia. I think those are just a few examples. I could probably go on for hours now, and we don't have the time to do that. But Cargill Publishers is very proud of offering and having launched the Vesalius Innovation Award to encourage the process of finding the next innovation in science, publishing, and AI.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mitja. And I think I would want to acknowledge the great work done by Cargill Publishers, because I know for a fact, at least last couple of years, I've been attending the STM event in London as well. And it's an absolutely fantastic day, the STM Innovations Day, which pretty much ends with the awards function. But it's such a great event to meet a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of folks who are very, very motivated to change some of the processes, and also the very positive feedback and motivation and enthusiasm that we see from the likes of traditional publishers society. So everybody comes together and is looking to improve things. Thank you so much for the contribution and for running that event. And thank you so much for the list as well, Mitja. I think that was fantastic for anybody listening in. That was a great list rather than going online and finding which are the tools. I think that's a fantastic ready reckoner. And like you said, I think there are a lot of other startups which are coming up as well. But these are the ones which, at least we being part of the industry, we've heard a lot, and they're making some significant progress. So thank you so much for sharing that. Moving on, Mitja, I think your guidance, your advice, what are some of the recommendations that come to mind for publishers and even senior leaders in academia who are looking to enhance knowledge management using AI? What potentially could be a starting point for them, or how do they build and capitalize on this opportunity?
I think it starts with a checklist I mentioned earlier, right? It starts with understanding AI's potential and limitations, and develop a clear understanding of what AI can do and what it cannot do. Equally important. Recognize that AI is a tool to assist and augment human capabilities, not a replacement for human expertise. And in that context, set clear objectives and priorities. Define the specific goals for your AI implementation. What is it that you would like to achieve? You have to really define that. I think that's an important part of the recommendation I would have. Is it improving content discovery? Is it enhancing the research process? Is it streamlining publishing workflows? Is it focusing on library users if we're talking about a library environment? So prioritizing initiatives that align with your institution's missions and needs is really crucial. And then involve stakeholders. I think that's really important. Involve all the stakeholders you have. Collaborate with faculty, researchers, librarians, and other key stakeholders to identify the most pressing challenges you have and opportunities that you can solve with AI, and involve everybody in the process and over communicate. I think that's really, really key. And invest in your own AI expertise. Build or acquire AI expertise within your organization. Employ data scientists, AI engineers, or partner with external experts if you don't have in-house expertise to help design and implement AI solutions. Focus on data quality and accessibility. We've already talked a little bit about that. Ensure that your data is clean, structured, and accessible, because only if that's the case, you can really see the full impact of AI. So I think we all know that high quality data is crucial for training AI models in the end and making informed decisions there. And don't forget the ethics, right? Ethical considerations are part of your approach here, and you need to really develop guidelines and policies that make sense for your institution or for your stakeholders, and establish and address the ethical concerns, the data privacy, or potential biases that are important to them. That's really crucial. And we're seeing this with a lot of players in the field. They are defining what's ethically important for them. And I think that's specifically given the fact that, from a government perspective or legislative perspective, I think we're still catching up. It's important for your organization to define that. And I think something else maybe to start small and scale. Don't start to do the big projects that are requiring a lot of resources and attention. Start small and start assessing impact before you scale up, right? Define a small area of your business or your institution where you want to see improvement, and monitor success very closely before you scale up. Those are important things. And just generally, and this is perhaps something that's more applicable for publishers than for academic institutions, just look at the opportunities you have in your specific peer review process and what enhancements can be done there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mitja. And I think for anyone listening in, that is one of the best checklists that I've heard somebody share. And anybody interested in bite-sized content, just listen to that bit, and you'll just get so much information from that. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was absolutely fantastic, Mitja. And just before wrapping up, just to add a personal touch to this, when not at work, how do you spend your time, Mitja?
Oh, I like to travel and read, and of course spend time with my son, who is an avid soccer fan. In extension, I've become one too. So,
So is there any specific club or country that you follow?
well, I'm originally from Germany, so we're all about that. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing and talking a little bit about that.
thank you.
As we draw the curtains on this insightful conversation with Mitja-Alexander Linss, it's evident that the intersection of AI and knowledge management in academia holds vast potential. We've explored the transformative power of AI, delving into its applications, challenges, and the exciting trends shaping its future role in academia and publishing. The delicate balance between human expertise and AI-driven solutions, the crucial metrics for measuring success, and the ethical considerations in handling sensitive information have been eye-opening topics. Mitja has painted a vivid picture of the dynamic landscape ahead. From unlocking discoveries in scientific research to enhancing education and collaboration, AI's impact is far-reaching. Publishers and senior leaders navigating this landscape, Mitja leaves us with valuable recommendations and strategies to embrace the power of AI in knowledge management. Thank you for joining us on this journey at Insights Exchange, where we have conversations with thought leaders who are shaping the future of academic research and publishing. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.